r/AskReddit by Redmond Eats. What is the biggest crime you have gotten away with? My husband had a huge bag of weed he shoved in his sock when the cops pulled him over in the 80s. The deputy who was searching him was very overweight and was breathing heavily and tired, so he simply gave up searching once he got done with the pockets of my husband's shorts. My husband tells the story to this day that the only reason he has no criminal history is the sheriff's department hired a fat guy. Man, you have to be really lazy to not see a huge bag of weed in a sock of someone wearing shorts. I knew the day would come when I would finally confess my crimes. But I am positive the statute of limitations is long past, so here it goes. My grandmother was an excellent seamstress and she was making me a beautiful cape to wear over my dress for a winter formal. I knew exactly the kind of buttons I wanted on the cape, but I couldn't find any buttons like I had in mind anywhere. And looked at every place I could think across 3 counties. I finally found the perfect buttons, but they were on a very expensive coat in a high-end fashion boutique. You know how they often attach extra buttons on the tags of garments? I stole the extra buttons from 3 of the coats. I only needed 2 for the cape, but I wanted an extra in case I lost one. Rebroadcasting Major League Baseball with implied oral consent, not explicit written consent. When I was in 5th grade, my class went on a field trip to a popular natural landmark, and it had this gift shop where you could buy small rocks as souvenirs. I'd forgotten that I had one in my hand after looking at one I thought was cool looking, and accidentally stole it. I didn't realize I had it until I got home. I thought I was going to be arrested and cried for a good hour or so. I stole a 2-carat diamond from the jewelry store I worked at. They were going out of business and was not offering any kind of severance, so I took my own. I sold a lot of drugs like 10 years ago, coke and ecstasy mainly. Then I got hooked on my own product and did some of the good doll stealing and robbing. I have been clean for 8 years. What a time. Edit. Thank you to whoever gave me the award, I appreciate you a lot. Edit 2. Goddamn, thank you for the gold, you're awesome. I used to forge notes to the registrar from my professors when I was an undergrad. The purpose of the note was to get me admitted to a class that was already filled. I noticed that at the first class, just about every professor wrote their name on the board. Unregistered, I would go to the first class, see how the professor wrote his or her name, and then write the note to the registrar, forging the professor's signature. The note would say something like, "Please admit Miss Blank to English 4912. The registrar would then let me into the class, even though it was filled. Now they have this function set up on the computer so you can't do it like I did, but maybe you could if you were a hacker. I did something like this. I took a gym class I didn't like, and told the teacher I had some illness or something, that if I exercised my organs could be damaged. But I needed a doctor's note, so I got a fake one and forged a signature. I used to forge doctor's notes in high school. I had a collection of them. Would copy and print onto white paper, white out the date, signature, my name. Then copy back on pink or blue paper. Then fill in the necessary info. I had 42 excused absences senior year. I also sold them to people at different schools I knew for like $5–10. One time at my dorm in college, the last person to service a vending machine left the service hatch open. This meant I was able to hit the test selection button over and over until I wiped out the entire stock of everything and I had chips and condoms forever. I'd probably have condoms forever if I just had one. I got pulled over after a night of partying in Vegas with friends. We were driving back home a few states away and very hungover from coke and molly. The dudes with me had tons of drugs on them. Molly, probably a gram or more each of powder, pressed pills, like 25–30, and weed. I got pulled over for tint in Arizona. The cops smelled weed, they searched the car and found everything. I am the driver, so no way I'm not going to jail. The dudes told the cops I had nothing to do with it. They took them to jail and let me go. Later both were released because the original stop for tint was unlawful. I'll never forget them doing that for me. Forgot to mention, I was in school and they weren't anymore. I was about to leave for study abroad like 5 days later. That was what they were telling the cops. Basically I'd be f***ed if they took me, etc. I need to send the one guy DM ASAP. Nice try FBI. Not today NSA. Go away CIA. Sex in public is illegal, so I guess that. When I was 5, I stole a dried kidney bean from the local health food store. I had just learned what shoplifting was, so after we left, I said, "Mommy, I shoplifted a bean." She thought it was hilarious and told them the next time we were in there. Everyone thought it was funny, and that ended my criminal career. One time in senior year, on Halloween Day, my friend and I took my little sister to the lake. While we were there was a wedding venue place that was closed. My friend and I looked around and, in the courtyard area of the venue, we saw 3 kegs. We hopped the fence, lifted them to check, and yeah, these bad boys were full. Later that night, we drove over, threw them into our car, and called the homies for one of the greatest parties I've ever thrown. Dealt acid and weed for a while in my 20s. Grew the weed at home in my cupboard. Bought sheets of LSD on paper off a guy and sold tabs on it at decent profits to friends and esteemed colleagues. I was generous with my weed portions, but when you're growing it yourself the overheads are low. Both were extremely lucrative. Was cool having little wads of cash as a 20-something line cook, but it got annoying having people texting me constantly, so I eventually stopped dealing. Having ready access to acid is also dicey for the old grasp on reality. Did the grown-up thing and chose mental health over money. But it got me through that period as a cook where I was getting paid full. Worked as a pharmacy technician for a few years and was tasked with disposing of unused medications customers brought in. Sometimes it was expired, sometimes it was leftover meds from a dead relative. Mostly, it was benzodiazepines and opioids, and I just happened to know quite a few people who prescribed to the better living through chemistry doctrine. Made about $8,500 doing so over a year and a half period. Know me, but my friend got drunk one night and started a bulldozer park near a new housing development. He put it in gear and bailed out. It made the news the next day. Torn up the freshly paved streets and crashed into a creek, missing several framed houses in the process. In college, I ran alcohol to dry counties, to be sold by bootleggers. I could pay my tuition in 3 trips. I used an enormous 1970 Ford Galaxy 500, with air shocks. I did not consider it a crime that hurt anyone, but it was still a crime. I never felt bad about doing it, but I definitely did worry about being caught. After 15 or 20 trips, 2 hours on the back roads, I quit hauling for the bootlegger. My roommate at the time, his uncle was the bootlegger, took over my work. He never got caught, as he used the back roads I showed him, and bought his alcohol from the people I knew in my hometown. The bootlegger sold booze out of a country store in a dry county. $10 for a gallon of beer, a plastic milk jug, $20 for a half pint of whiskey or gin or rum. We could haul 2 kegs, and several cases of half pints for about $150. He paid for the booze, gas and $150 each, every week. I have no idea what we would have faced had we been caught, but I did know that I would not have ratted out the guy selling it. Way too scary. I know it was dumb, but I got lucky. I only break the law by driving too fast now. Never more than 9 miles per hour over the limit. Kinda makes me less a bad guy. That's all folks. Thank you for watching. If you like videos like this one, why not like and subscribe for more? Have a nice evening.